In this tutorial, we are going to learn how the if statement in Java works. The if statement can be written in 4 different ways. First, if condition block of code. The actual purpose of if statement is that it is used to decide whether an operation is to be performed or not based on a condition. So, whatever the condition which you write here must evaluate to a boolean, which means either true or false. If the condition which you wrote here evaluates to true, then all the code, all the block of code which is written between this open parenthesis and open brace and close brace gets executed. I'm talking about this code. If the condition evaluates to false, then Java skips the execution of this block of code. So this is a simple if statement. Let's say if the condition evaluates to true, then I want to do something, and if the condition evaluates to false, then also I want to do some other thing. For that, there is a flavor of if called if else block of code. So now how it works is that if the condition evaluates to true, as usually this block of code gets executed. If the condition does not evaluate to true, that means if the condition evaluates to false, then the else block gets executed. So this else block is always optional. There is one important point you have to understand. You can have an if block without an else block, but you cannot have an else block without an if block. Even if you try to do so, of course, the Java compiler is intelligent enough to observe that and it will stop you. This is good enough to check whether one condition is satisfying or not. What if I have multiple conditions, and based on those multiple conditions, I have to write various parts of the code? The other flavor of if comes into picture, and that is if condition 1, then execute this block of code, else if condition 2, then execute this block of code, else, that means if both the conditions fail, both the conditions are evaluated to false, then execute this block of code. So how this works is, when the program executes, it first checks whether condition 1 evaluates to true or false. If it evaluates to true, then it executes this block of code. And if it evaluates to false, it directly goes here and checks whether this condition is evaluating to true or false. If this condition evaluates to true, it executes this block of code and it obviously comes out of the entire if statement to the control, to the next statement after else here. If it evaluates to false, then it executes this block of code. This is called the if-else ladder. Theoretically, there are no limits to how long this if-else ladder you might write. You can write it as long as you need it. But that's not a good practice, but still it works. There is also an other flavor of if statement, and that is called nested if statement. And this is how it works. If condition 1 is satisfied, then inside the if you can check for an other condition you can also have an optional else block. So here if you observe, if the first condition satisfies, then it goes into the block of code which is written inside this if condition, which is this. In that, it checks whether the condition 2 satisfies or not. If the condition 2 also satisfies, then this block of code gets executed. And if the condition 2 fails, then this block of code gets executed. So this is the nested if flavor of the if statement. Here also, theoretically, there are no limits to the levels of nesting that can be done in the if statement. You can nest it as deeper as required. But again, that is not really a very good best practice, and it also degrades the performance of the program. But still, at this stage, I don't recommend you to worry about the performance and efficiency of the programs. It is more about you understand the concepts in detail. So now let's go ahead and write a simple if statement, because this simple if statement is what we use most of the time in our Java program. Int a is equal to 10, b is equal to 20. If a is less than b, then I am going to print system dot out dot println a is less than b. Now if I save this file and compile the program and then run it, you can see that the program outputs the statement, the print which we wrote inside the println, a is less than b. Now let's do one thing. Let's say a is greater than b. So what we are expecting here is, if a is greater than b, then print a is greater than b. But 10 is not greater than 20. So what does the Java compiler do now? It doesn't print anything. That's because you wrote the code in such a way that to print a message as a is greater than b if the value of a is greater than the value of b. If not, else, you didn't mention anything. So it didn't do anything. So let me have an else block here. And let me print a message a is less than b. So now what we are doing is that if a is greater than b, then print the message as a is greater than b. Else, print the message as a is less than b. So let me save the file, open up the command prompt, recompile the program, run the program. There you go. A is less than b. So what happened here is, it checked for this condition, it returned false. So without executing any of this code, it executed this code. So this is how the if statement works. Now, if you want to check another condition, then what we do is, else if a is less than b, print a less than b. Else, print a is equal to b. So we are checking two different conditions here. If a is greater than b, print a is greater than b. If a is less than b, print a is less than b. And if both these conditions fail, print A is equal to B. So in order to see the difference in this, let's also make B equal to 10. Save the file. Recompile the program and rerun the program. Here you can see A is equal to B. The first condition failed, it doesn't go into it. The second condition also failed, so it doesn't go into it. So it comes into this third block and executes the code. Now let's say we have another variable which is equal to 5 and this variable which is equal to 20. Let's remove all this. Let me remove this too. If A is less than B, now check for another condition. If C is also less than B, then print both A and C are less than B. If not, let's say there might be a condition that C is not less than B, then print only A is less than B. So let's save the program, open up the command prompt. Let me clear it. Recompile the program and rerun the program. There you go. It displays both A and C are less than B. So what happened here is it checked for the first condition which returned true, then it went into the if statement. There it encountered another if statement which is nested if, and this is called nested if inside another if. So it checked for the second condition, that returned true, and it executed this line of code. Once it executed, the control jumps out of the inside if. So this is how the if statement in Java works.